everyone, to our candidates for the mayoral position in Cainta. Welcome to Cainta Catholic College. To our employees, co-workers in the vineyard of the Lord through the Cainta Catholic College and our fellow students here, welcome to this afternoon's Holders Education Program. My task for this afternoon as the first preliminary speaker, because there will be 3 of us, is to give you an orientation and reorientation on our right and obligation to vote. I was given 15 minutes to discuss with you this right and this obligation. So therefore, I will be covering 3 basic laws. I tried to summarize them for easy understanding and appreciation. Therefore, the topic assigned to me is our right to suffrage. In discussing the right to suffrage, we refer to the word suffrage as the right to vote and be voted for. So therefore, it is not only confined to our right as citizens of the Philippines to vote, but we also have the right, if qualified, to be voted for a public office, if we are qualified. Because if you try to review the contents of the Constitution of the Philippines, for positions in the national level, one of the common requirements or criteria is that the candidate must be a registered voter. That's why if you look at the definition here, I repeat, our right to vote carries within our right to be voted for. Who knows, later on, one of you might become one of the future candidates in Cainta for any of the elected positions available. Who knows? My discussion for this afternoon is based on 3 laws affecting our right to suffrage. And these are, first, the Philippine Constitution, particularly Article 5. Second, we have the Executive Order number 157, issued by the then President Corazon Aquino, dated March 30, 1987, and the Batas Pambansang Bilang 881, or the Omnibus Election Code of the Philippines, dated December 3, 1985. Let me first focus on Article 5 of the Philippine Constitution. Philippine Constitution Article 5 lists down for us the requirements for a voter. In other words, before one can be allowed to vote in any national or local election, he must possess the following qualifications. First, the voter must be a citizen of the Philippines, because that is your basic right as a citizen of the Philippines. Now you will ask me, who then is the citizen of the Philippines? Well, you have to refer yourselves to Article 4 of the Constitution, which enumerates for us who are the citizens of the Philippines. So that's the first requirement. We must be citizens of the Philippines. Second, the voter must at least be 18 years old, which the students know is the legal age. So below that, you will not be allowed to vote here. So you must be 18. Third qualification, the voter must have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year prior to election. And what is the purpose of that? Tatagalogin ko po yung iba pong sasabihin, paano ka makakaboto nang hindi mo alam yung mga taong iboboto mo? So parang nagmimini-mini mo ka lang doon kung hindi mo kilala. That's why there is a requirement for the voter to be at least in the Philippines for a period of 1 year, immediately preceding the election to be held. There's an additional requirement though, that the voter must be registered in the municipality or city where he resides for at least 6 months preceding the election. So if you have all these qualifications, then you can be allowed to vote. But of course, before you can be allowed to vote, you have to register yourself first as a voter. You cannot just go there to the precinct and assert your right to vote. You must have to follow some processes and procedures. Article 5 enumerates the qualifications. However, in the Omnibus Election Code of the Philippines, it lists there that these qualifications for a voter. So even then, if we have the qualifications, it does not mean that you have the right already to vote. If you possess any of the disqualifications, you will not also be allowed to vote. That's the reality. Now, according to the same election rules, we do not require any literacy requirement. You don't need to be somebody who knows how to read and write in order to vote. Because even illiterates are given the chance to vote, provided they possess the requirements of the law, the qualifications. There's no requirement on property. You don't need to have a house, a car, a lot in order to vote. There's no such curtailing the right of the people to choose their leaders. And other substantive requirements shall be imposed on the exercise of suffrage. No? So no substantive requirement shall be mandated on the right to suffrage. For those who have voted already, you will notice that if the voter is an illiterate, he is normally accompanied by somebody to assist him. A relative or whoever is with him at that day, or any of the persons available there to assist him. Right? Disabled and illiterate can also vote. So I have mentioned the illiterates there. Disabled persons, because disability is not a disqualification to vote. Now, there is the absentee voting law. This is the law signed by President Corazon Aquino then. According to the absentee voting law, officers and employees of the government who are assigned elsewhere, in other words, out of the country, during the time of election, can be given the right to vote wherever they are because they are performing their official functions on election day. Now let's try to look at the Omnibus Election Code of the Philippines. Let me just emphasize this, my dear teachers and employees. The right to vote carries with it the obligation to vote. Voting, suffrage is not only a right, I repeat. It is our obligation as citizens of the Philippines to vote. So yung iba sinasabi, hayaan mo na silang mamili, hayaan mo na silang mamili. Pagkatapos pag ang napili ay hindi kagandahang kandidato at nakaupo na, ang daming sinasabi. So ang tanong, nakilahok ka ba sa eleksyon? Pumili ka ba? Kung hindi ka pumili at nakilahok sa eleksyon, palagay mo wala kang karapatang magsalita ng anumang negatibo tungkol sa mga nakaupo. So, right and obligation. Anong sinasabi ng Section 4 po ng Omnibus Election Code of the Philippines? Sabi dyan, it should be the obligation of every citizen qualified to vote to register and cast his vote. So that is the basis of our obligation on the right to suffrage. However, the same law tells us that not everyone who is qualified can vote because there are some disqualifications listed in the Omnibus Election Code wherein a person can be disqualified or not allowed to vote. And the list can be found in Section 118 of the said code. And what are these? First, if the person has been judged by final court, final judgment in a court of competent jurisdiction of imprisonment of not less than 1 year, therefore the imprisonment is more than 1 year, and has not been pardoned by the President of the Philippines, he will not be allowed to vote. Ako, practical reason ko, nakakulong eh. Paano kang boboto kung ikaw ay nakakulong sa prison? No? Unless, the same Omnibus Code tells us that he will be allowed to vote after 5 years after serving the sentence meted on him. Second, disqualified person. A person who has violated his allegiance to the Republic of the Philippines through rebellion, sedition, violation of the anti-subversion and firearms laws, or any crime against national security will not be allowed to vote even if he possesses all the qualifications. Why will you be allowed to choose a leader? Hindi ka na makasuporta sa organized government. It's ironic. So you will not be allowed. Nag-uprising ka, o sabihin natin uprising mo, armed uprising, or ikaw ang nagsulsul para mag-apprise yung mga tao, why will you be allowed to vote? You are against organized government, and what we have in the Philippines is an organized government. Third, insane or incompetent persons as declared by competent authority. Alam niyo po yung insanity, kasi sa law, di ba, may insane at saka demented. Anong insanity? Sira ulo? Ano yung demented? May sometimes may habling, may kunti-kunti, paminsan-minsan, demented. But the disqualification talks of insane. Insane, ibig sabihin ay medyo hindi lang medyo, wala sa kanyang tamang pag-iisip. Paano pipili yan ng tama kung wala nga sa tamang pag-iisip? Kaya lang po, hindi tayo pwedeng magsabi na huwag niyong pabotohin niya kasi sira ang ulo niyan. Hindi mo pwedeng ganon. The insanity of the person has to be proved by a court of competent authority. Okay? Kailangan niya i-establish that the person is really insane and therefore may not be allowed to vote. Alright. So ano ba ang suffrage? Sabi natin, suffrage is our right to choose our leaders. Suffrage can also mean our right to run for public office if we are qualified. Suffrage is our responsibility and our right. Suffrage is how we choose well the right candidates. Because wrong choice of candidates when we exercise our right of suffrage can lead to our suffering. Because not the proper candidates are there to guide us. The leaders are our governors. We are the governed. Because we are the citizens. Okay, now, I picked up two very inspirational phrases from two known people in the Philippines. The first one is Dr. Jose P. Rizal, who is our national hero. He said, like people, like government. What do we mean by that? Let's try to look at the explanation I have put here. If our people, the Filipinos, citizens who have the right to vote, are good citizens who elect good officials, then our government shall be a good one. Di ba? Kung anong tinanim mo, paano mo tinanim, therefore magbubunga din niya ng maganda. However, on the other hand, if we have bad citizens who sell their votes or to dirty politicians or allow themselves to be oppressed by the unscrupulous officials, then our government will be a bad one. It depends on your hands. Good citizens, good leaders, good government. Bad citizens, bad leaders, bad government, then we suffer. Lastly, President Jose P. Laurel, as President of the Philippines from 1943 to 1945, said also, nobody can love the Filipinos better than the Filipinos themselves. And what do we mean by that? It is our prime duty as citizens of this country to know our government. Because no other people than the Filipinos can know, love, or fight for our country better than the citizens of our country. Wala pong magtatanggol at magmamahal sa bayan natin Pilipinas, kundi tayo pong mga Pilipino. Anong sinasabi? Ang karapatang bumoto ay hindi lamang karapatan, ito ay isang obligasyon. Pagkat karapatan siya, pahalagahan natin siya. Kaya nga hindi ba sinasabi, the sacredness of the ballot. Pag-isipan po natin yan sa ating pagboto. Maraming pong salamat.